allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Review of the agenda and adoption of the agenda. Anybody?
I just had one question. So there are in the consent items, there's a list of adjustment to the staffing allocations. Is that something we need to review? Does it impact the budget at all?
So it's actually based on growth.
Okay.
And so it's already budgeted in, we're just
So just
based
moving it
on
around?
numbers, yes ma'am.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that was what that was. I thought that's what it was, but I wanted to make sure.
Anybody else? Not, anybody like to make a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll make the motion to adopt the agenda.
Motion by Mr. Bennett,
I'll second it.
second by Ms. Hall. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Consider approval for minutes for the August 22nd, 2024 special virtual board meeting. Was everybody here for that one?
Billy was not.
Billy was not.
I was not at that.
All right. So, would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for August 22nd.
Motion by Mr. Dorsey,
Second.
second by Ms. Simpkins. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Consider approval of minutes for the August 27th regular board meeting. Everyone was here. Okay. Would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of August 27th, 2022.
Motion by Ms. Hall,
Second.
second by Mr. Bennett. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Approval of minutes for the September 16th, 2024 special board meeting. Mr. Dorsey was absent.
I'll second it.
Nobody made the motion, so you.
I'll make a motion to approve. I thought he did.
No, he wasn't here.
It's the air conditioning.
Motion by Ms. Hall,
Second.
second by Ms. Simpkins. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Recognitions. Ms. Christy Bush.
Good evening. We would like to start tonight with Ms. Tiffany Smith from RDC for our recognitions. Good evening.
Good evening.
This evening, I would like to recognize the Clark County Community Foundation for their gracious donation of $5,000 to the Clark County Winchester Heritage Commission, and the Heritage Commission's gracious donation of $5,000 to our 8th grade students at Robert D. Campbell Junior High School. Additionally, we would like to recognize Mr. Steve Justice and Mrs. Paula Thomas from the Clark County Winchester Heritage Commission. This donation will provide all of our 7th grade students the opportunity to visit our state capitol and the Vietnam Memorial. Offering this opportunity for students will not only help them develop a deeper understanding of democracy and the legislative process, but will also deepen appreciation for civic engagement and public service. Additionally, such a pertinent field trip will likely serve as a core memory for their time spent as 7th graders at Robert D. Campbell. Both Mr. Justice and Mrs. Thomas have been essential in orchestrating this opportunity for our students. Their dedication and advocacy is inspiring, to say the least. Their involvement and support has been instrumental in bringing this idea to fruition. So, Mr. Justice, Mrs. Thomas, and members of the Clark County Community Foundation, please come forward and be recognized.
You official. Come on up. I'm gonna get in the back. How about that? Right. Oh, sorry about that, Mr. Justice.
Everybody ready?
You want the go-karts? Oh, yeah. Go-karts. We were all, Thank you very much. I I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Thank you, appreciate it.
We will start our business recognition. They're excited.
We got this concept here, she's legendary. I said legendary. Yes, ma'am.
In a good way.
In a good way, no, absolutely.
We will start this evening with our business recognition. The LA1 Bottling Company has teamed with Clark County Public Schools for the first of its kind collaboration. This collaboration makes our very own local LA1 drink available at all athletic and other events throughout the year. Please join me in thanking LA1 and Ms. Sheila Fry for making this happen.
Oh, I got you two of them.
All right.
You want to hold one, I'll hold one?
Sure.
As we celebrate, she's really good at go-karts, we've done it before. 1, 2, 3, go-kart! Thank you very much, I appreciate it. You're doing a good thing this one, too.
Thanks. Our next recognition is for the Governor's School for the Arts, a community of artists that empowers the next generation of Kentucky's creative leaders. GSA is offered at no cost to the student and is made available through funding from the state as well as private fundraising. Students join a network of thousands of artists, artisan citizens who are creating an impact all over the world and defining what it means to be an artist from Kentucky. How do you get to be a Governor's School art participant? Students may earn 3 credits for each year they attend GSA. Admissions to GSA is by audition. Any student from grades 8 through 11 are eligible to apply. Applicants provide an audition, they have a teacher recommendation process, and permission from their high school principal. Clark County Public Schools had a total of 4 students that attended this wonderful program. Tonight, please join me in recognizing Ms. Abigail Chris.
We gotta look down here too, Mama's here, very good. Congratulations, actually, very proud of you.
The Governor's Scholar Program strives to enhance Kentucky's next generation of civic and economic leaders. The program provides academic and personal growth through the balance of strong liberal arts and science programs with a full co-curricular and residential life. Students must complete an application and they have 2,000 applicants throughout the state. And most of the time, we we have 2,000 that applied, and the very first class was 230 that we had in one campus. Since the program has enjoyed excellent support and grown to the thousands that we have, they are now at Center, Moorhead, and Murray State. Clark County is presently surprised and wonderfully happy to have 12 of our students attend. This evening, please help me in recognizing Anna Barnes, Olivia Brownlee,
Don't fail me, what's that?
Caroline Harper, Mallory Jones, Reese Patrick,
Oh, man, come, we're going to
Get the
squeeze
middle.
on it. Okay, I'll get the middle. How's this? We play strategically?
I like it. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go Cards. 3, 2, 1.
Go Cards.
those ladies have never made you look so good. Would the board please come forward? Look at my papers.
We're going up here.
Yeah, we're going.
What'd you say? Come on in the middle, sir.
We would like to take a moment to celebrate Mr. Howard and his recent award for the Kentucky Music Educational Association District 7 Administrator of the Year. CCPS provides a multitude of opportunities in the arts for students. We would like to thank him, his staff, and his dedication for allowing students to excel in their craft.
I'm sorry. It's a little awkward. It's okay. I did send Ashley. I might have sent it to her.
The Kentucky House passed a resolution commendating community schools. The Kentucky House passed this resolution, I believe, in March. Am I correct? Representative James Tipton stated, "I believe every Kentucky child deserves a high-quality education, and that requires all of us in the community to get involved. The Kentucky Community School Initiative is creating hubs of collaboration between educators, families, local government, and other local organizations to create a condition for families to thrive." This evening, we would like to thank Representative Dodson and Senator Elkins for their support in this endeavor. That'll be for Baker. We can just take a picture with them, and here's their certificate.
Come on up, guys. We can clap for them
We'll
too.
figure it out. So one will hang in Baker's front office, and one will hang in Conkright. Those are our two community schools. And then we have some goodies for the general.
I won't yell. I won't yell.
Last time I got that, my sister and and I cried.
Here we go. We tilt that down a little bit, the glare is.
Glare?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want me to just
Hold it toward you more
Right
like
there.
that, a
Okay.
little bit, not quite that much. But come out just a little bit with this one. Yeah, that's better. Much better. Okay, ready? Okay, thank you.
Because you didn't yell at you, that was good, that's good, right?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here. At this time, Senator Elkins, would you like to give us an update?
Consider Dawson, do you have anything that you want to update us on your world web as well, or anything you want to communicate to the board?
So, thank you for having me. What I wanted to do was to give a legislative update, kind of talk a little bit about the last session, a few things that went on that were of particular importance, I think. And so, being my first session, I learned a lot about the way things happen in Frankfurt. So I learned there are several different ways to create a bill and make it come into law. And last year, there were more than 1,200 bills that were drafted. So that's a lot of reading, a lot of researching, and a lot of trying to figure out whether you're for something or against something. Only a little more than 200 of those bills actually became law. I learned there are 3 different ways that a bill can become law. First, it can go through the process and be signed by the governor, and then becomes law. And there were a couple of bills that I want to talk about that happened with. One of them is Senate Bill 2. That is the bill that established a framework for employing guardians in our schools, and ultimately hopefully becoming SROs or school resource officers. It did a few things. It provided guidance for training for the SROs and certificate programs that they have. It also gave immunity to the school board for the hiring of those guardians even before they become SROs. So that immunity is important in that it gives you the freedom to feel free to do that without being concerned about litigation or something in the future. So it was one of the important things that happened. Another thing that dealt with juvenile was a juvenile justice bill, Senate Bill 20, and that was a bill that treats a 15-year-old or older, if they commit a violent crime with a gun, they automatically become treated as an adult. Most of the time in the court system, they'll be treated as an adult anyway, but it has to be the county attorney that decides that it will be treated as an adult. This way, they're automatically an adult, and the county attorney and the judge can decide that they're not to be treated as an adult should they choose to do so. And it gives the juvenile will, or adult, will spend 75% of their sentence incarcerated should they be convicted, which is a pretty big difference. And that's hopefully a bill that will deter some of the gun violence that takes place in some of our communities, particularly gang-related gun violence where children are dared to do things or an initiation where they have to commit a crime with a gun. Hopefully that's what that bill will do, is to deter some of that. Another Senate bill that was signed by the governor was Senate Bill 128, which eases child labor laws. And when you hear that, you think, oh my goodness, we're going to start working our 12-year-olds at McDonald's. That isn't the case. What it did was it allowed 12-year-olds to go to work at the Salvation Army or some nonprofit, because there were some issues with allowing those children to perform labor activities at nonprofits. Well, that bill freed that up to where they can at least go volunteer and even get paid at some of the nonprofits. So those are the bills I want to talk about that were signed by the governor. The Senate bills that, those became law without the governor's signature. He chose not to act on it either way. He didn't sign them, he didn't not sign them, he didn't veto them. So after a period of time, they became law. So bills that were signed by the governor was Senate Bill 1, it's a very important bill. It establishes an endowed research fund that will be administered by the Council on Post-Secondary Education, which encourages collaboration between universities in doing research. So where you have like Morehead State, who has their aerospace program, and Eastern Kentucky, who has their aviation program, it encourages the two of those to pool their resource dollars together and get more bang for their buck in the education or in the research market. They can do that with federal funds, they can do it with state funds, they can do it with grants, any funds they choose to associate or put towards that program. Senate Bill 1 not only allows, but it encourages that to happen. Senate Bill 71 is an odd bill. That was a bill that deals with, I guess you would call it recovery facilities. So if someone from Menifee County comes to Clark County to a recovery facility and they should decide they want to leave, this says the recovery facility must transport that person back to Menifee County or to their home county. So that's particularly important in counties like Clark County and Fayette County and Jefferson County, where we have a lot of recovery facilities and people will come from other areas and just stay here. And this says that the county attorney and the judge who sent them to that recovery facility will both be notified, and that person is transported back to their home county. Senate Bill 111 provided for an expanded Medicaid program for stuttering. That was a bill that was actually Michael Kidd Gilchrist did a lot of testimony on that bill. I didn't know that. I knew who he was for watching him at Rupp Arena a lot, but he has a speech impediment, and I didn't know that until I actually listened to him testify, and you could hear it then. So this causes, used to, I think Medicaid would spend 6 months of therapy for that, and anybody who's had, and Kim and I had a son who was in speech therapy, 6 months is just not enough time to really do any good at all. So this expands that program and allows that to go on. Senate Bill 376 was my bill, actually, one of them. It's a reorganization of the Attorney General's office, which moved the collection of child support services into the Attorney General's office, which gives that service a little more teeth than it had before, and allows us to go about collecting the more than $1 billion in Kentucky child support that isn't collected yet. So that, I think, was a very good bill. I'm proud to sponsor that and work with the Attorney General's office to get that done. Bills that the governor vetoed that were overridden. There weren't many of them. I think there were 18 out of them, or 20, maybe something like that, out of the 200. So that's not bad. One of them that he vetoed, though, was a bill that creates a nuclear energy development authority. So Kentucky is exploring nuclear energy. We have decided, as a collective effort in the General Assembly, that we're going to have to look at an all-of-the-above approach in Kentucky for energy production, because we have such a huge aerospace industry here, AI is another issue. If any of you have read what Google just did with buying the 3 Mile Island reactor, and they're going to reopen the #1 reactor because of the AI issues that Google's experiencing and the drain on the power grid. So we've decided to research an all of the above approach to include nuclear energy, and this one is going to take place in Paducah. It creates a group that's going to study nuclear energy and paves the way for nuclear energy to soon become a way of life in Kentucky, hopefully. I was very much for that bill. I thought that was a bill that needed to happen. Also, we had Senate Joint Resolution 140, which directed the PSC, the Public Services Commission, to go ahead and start hiring people that are familiar with nuclear energy and how to implement that and start creating laws and getting ready for the ultimate development of a nuclear power facility and permitting it here in Kentucky. I think that was another important piece of legislation that needed to happen, so we don't just jump off this cliff without being ready for it when the time comes. A few things that were of particular interest to me last year that I really enjoyed doing, and I encourage this as much as we can do it, is the PAGE program. So it allows for people in school to come and be a PAGE for a day, just a day, the daily PAGE program, where they can come and sit with me in the Senate while we're passing bills, voting on legislation. And one of the things that I always do is I stand up and let that person, whoever that page is, have my seat. So even if I'm speaking, and I always try to speak when they're sitting there because I like to get them on KET so they can go home and look at themselves on KET. So I always leave them sitting in my seat, and I'll sit in the seat. I'll stand by the side of the microphone next to me and do whatever speaking I may do. It's a great program. They train those pages, those youths that want to be a page. They train them in what to do when we're filing bills. We usually let them carry it up to the podium and file the bill. Try to make them as involved as I can and to teach them about our government and how we go about making a bill, making a law, and they find it very interesting. I've not had one yet that left without thinking it was just an awesome experience. And we always give them a citation so they can hang it on their wall, and they'll have that forever as well. So I wanted to talk about that. Encourage your youth to come to Frankfort and participate in the PAGE program. I wish we had 3 or 4 of them a day. And my grandson, who's 8, I think at the time, he's 9 now, but he was 8 at the time, he came and was a page for a day, and he enjoyed it. He sat there and he would read them bills as they came up on the computer, and it was just really fun to watch him. I had probably, 7 or 8 pages that came. It was just really great experience. We have 60 days in Frankfort. I wish we had pages on all 60 days that would come and sit in my seat. I wish I had to never sit down. I had also Senate Resolution 59, which sponsored the Lady Long Knives from right here in Clark County. They came down, spent the day with me in Frankfort on the Senate floor, recognized them, took pictures with them, interacted with them. And I say all the time, one of my favorite days was having the Lady Long Knives there, because I spent, and if you've ever been to Frankfort, you know just how busy it is for a senator or a representative. But I spent almost that entire day with those Lady Long Knives. I had lunch with them. I had a question and answer session that lasted probably an hour with them, where they could ask any question they wanted to ask, and they asked some of the best questions that I got asked the entire year while I was there. Did the same thing with the, and I probably hate to say this here, the mock trial team out of Montgomery County. I sponsored them as well. But hopefully this year I can sponsor the mock
We were
trial
state runners
team.
up, all right?
I know you were.
So throw it out there.
Hopefully this year we get both of them there, so that would be really good. But I really enjoy having our youth in Frankfort. I tell them all the time when they come down to take pictures or whatever, pick out something from this day and make a memory of it. I can remember when I went to Frankfort in the 5th grade. It was a time that I grew up very poor in East Kentucky. Dustin knows where I grew up at. And you just can't imagine, I couldn't imagine ever getting to go to Frankfort as a child, as a youth. And I remember 2 things about that trip. One was the air-conditioned bus. It was a Greyhound bus, had air conditioning. That was pretty cool. I don't know that I'd ever felt that before. And the other thing was the big floral clock that they have out front. I could have never dreamt that someday, a few years later, that would be outside my office, that floral clock. And I tell them, pick out something and make a memory that you'll carry with you the rest of your life. Don't forget to do that. That was important to me, and I think it's important to them as well. I did manage to get a little over $100 million in infrastructure money for Clark County, sewer projects, road projects. Hopefully we'll finish the bypass now on the east side of the town. I want to expand US 60 coming out of Fayette County into Clark County. I think that needs to be widened and expanded as well. So there are a lot of projects that we managed to get funded. Representative Dotson and I worked very hard to bring a lot of funds to Clark County. It was a record number of funds that we had. A few other things we did, we managed to increase the SEEK funding. As a matter of fact, I have a class tomorrow. I was in Frankfurt today, but I didn't get a chance to get to it. But tomorrow I have a class to study for another hour the SEEK formula. I hate to say it, but it's so very complicated. I don't know that I could figure the SEEK formula out without the KDE helping me. And I've asked them to come and show me that SEEK formula because I know there are some things that need changed with it. There's some things that could be corrected with the SEEK formula to make it better. And I'm interested in learning that and seeing that process, how that calculation is done, because I know it's very complicated. So I've got a class tomorrow where I'm going to be going or learning more about the SEEK formula as we go. But we did manage to increase SEEK funding this year. I think Clark County was a beneficiary of that, as was Montgomery County, and then we managed also to increase Tier 1 funding, which I think helped some of the more rural counties like Bath County and Menifee County as well. I think both of those really needed to happen. We are funding transportation now at a higher level than we have in the past, which is very important. We have to pay to get those kids to school and from schools. Transportation needs to be funded. I think we're mandated to fund it 100%, and we haven't always done so. So it's a shame when we tell you, you must fund something, but we tell ourselves we don't have to when it comes to us doing it. So I was very proud to support increasing the SEEK formula, Tier 1 formula, or Tier 1 funding, and the transportation formula as well. One of the things, two things I'm working on next year I want to talk to you about. One of them is, it took me a year to decide to do it. It's a very big bill. It's a bill that I'm going to need a lot of help on. It's called Aaron's Law. 38 states in the union have passed Aaron's Law. Aaron's Law is a law geared towards teaching children from kindergarten age up to recognize sexual abuse when it happens to them and to learn how to communicate it as it happens to them. Erin Mayhem is a victim of sexual abuse as a child. She didn't know who to talk to about it. She didn't know what to do about it. So it continued on until she was really almost grown. And she has been a champion of this bill. So that's why we call it Aaron's Law. And I knew as a young new legislator, I didn't want to take up a bill so important that I wasn't ready to move along and to get passed. But then my wife and I were talking about it, and knowing that 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be a victim of sexual abuse, according to Aaron's Law, I thought, I can't wait another year to figure this out. I'm going to have to start pushing it. It almost became a law in 2022, but it failed on the Senate floor. It just didn't get taken up. It made it all the way through the House, through all the committee meetings, through everything that happened, but it died on the Senate floor before it ever came to vote. So I'm going to take it up to the senator and push it through, or try to push it through this year. And that's going to be my big bill that I file. Another bill that's important to me, and I think is important to you, is putting cameras on stop arms on school buses. And what this does is, it's perfectly legal to put those cameras on school buses now, but this allows you to collect a penalty and to pay the vendor out of the penalty for those stop arms or for those cameras on those school buses. So there'll be no cost to the school system. I have a vendor that's ready, willing, and able to do it. Representative Hale out of Menifee County ran this bill 3 or 4 times and has always failed to get it through. So he came to me and he said, why don't you try to run it from the Senate side? I said, well, let me see what I can do with it. So I'm going to file that bill, which will help catch people who run those stop signs on those school buses. There's a video out in Tennessee, I think it was, or Illinois, and it was a neighboring state, where a white van comes around a stop school bus, and a little girl's getting ready to get off, and it's coming around the bus on the left, on the right side of the bus, and she almost stepped out in front of that white van as it sped past the school bus. They never found the white van because there's not a camera on that stop arm that would have been taking a picture of that driver, of that license plate as it went by. So I'd like to see us at least allow you to put those stop arms on all your school buses. Use the vendor of your choice, there are 3 or 4 of them, and then pay for those cameras and that storage system through the fines and the penalties that would be collected for people who run those stop signs on those school buses. Just another, I guess, another bill I think that'll make our children much more safe as they go to school and come home from school, which is, to me, is very important. As Dustin will tell you, he probably is ashamed of it. He and I went to the same high school together. We didn't know that until we got to talking after I won the Senate seat. He told me where he was from, and I said, well, imagine that. I said, I am as well. We both went to the same little small high school in Greenup County. But we're now both proud cards, so except when he yells "Go Cards" up there, it makes me jealous.
I'll have a go.
I appreciate Dustin's passion, though, I really do. He's a great advocate for this school system, for this body, for these schools that we have in Clark County. He is always singing your praises and theirs as well, and I appreciate him, and I appreciate you, and I appreciate you having me here to talk to you about the legislature and what we did last year. I hope to come back next year and tell you that we got the 2 bills that I told you about tonight passed, and what all changes may have taken place with them. But if you'd like, I'll entertain questions, and if not, I'll take my seat and move this meeting along. So,
Thank you so much for everything you've been doing, and you've really stood up for education, and we truly, truly appreciate that.
it's important to me, and I understand, and, you know, the resolution that we talked about tonight, and giving that quality education for all students as it helps them transition into adulthood and be more competitive. It's just, as they enter the workforce, I really like, and it's the Pritchard Committee who talks about the meaningful diplomas, and that, to me, hits home. A meaningful diploma is something we need to graduate, and we do that in Clark County. We don't do that everywhere in the state, we do that in Clark County. These kids leave Clark County GRC with a meaningful diploma. I have a son who graduated from GRC, and he's doing very well in life, so it's important to me that we do that. Education is, I mean, it's the root of what we do, so.
You've done a great job.
Thank you all very much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Steve. Ms. Kim, please keep taking good care of it.
Mr. Dodson, we will let you come anytime you want to come and speak too. Not to put you on the, you know.
Appreciate it. I'll come back.
All right, just get with Mr. Howard, he will set you up. He loves to have other people come and talk instead of him. All right. We are now on to public comments. Ms. Jada Brody.
Hi, how are you guys? First things first, I'm going to give you all some things, if that's okay. My lovely assistant, Chris, my husband, has some things to give you guys as well.
Thank you, lovely assistant.
Hanging in there.
Haven't seen you in a minute. Running your brother all the time now.
Mr. Bennett.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Well, my name is Jada Brady, and I live at 7170 Bybee Road. And I just wanted to address some of the comments made at the 8/27/2024 school board meeting. My hope is that by clearing up some of the questions that were asked but not clearly answered, that this will lead to a better working relationship between the Clark County School Board and the Clark County PBA. Now, first, I have worked very hard to create an open and transparent office. I've utilized the newspaper, United States Postal Service, radio, Facebook, Clark County PBA website, public events, and even public comments here at the school board to relay the message that my door is always open. However, sometimes messages do get lost, so I'm back again today to make it very clear that not only is my door open, but I want to answer any and all questions about assessment of property. Now that we have that out of the way, I have some information here with me tonight that I think you'll find incredibly helpful. There was some discussion at the 8/27 meeting about not having an understanding of the quad plan and when homes would be assessed. I had Stephen Berry with CCGIS print out maps, which we've passed out to each one of you all today, that overlay the quad plan with your school district areas. Please look at them at your leisure, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to address them. I've also included property cards for each of your properties. Please feel free to take a look at them. At the bottom of each assessment is a written date of when to expect your reassessment. If you find any of the information incorrect, please feel free to reach out to me and I'll be happy to go over it. I apologize, Ms. Ritchie, for not supplying you a property card for tonight's meeting, but I was unable to locate a deeded property for you. If this is an error, please let me know and I'll be happy to email you that property card. If there are changes made to your assessment or if you disagree or have any questions, you will receive a letter. Usually they come out in April. You have the right, just like every Clark County citizen, to come in and have a discussion with me, whether you disagree, agree, or just have questions. Now next, I'd like to address Ms. Nora Hall's confusion about why one home would have been raised differently than another home. She stated, and I quote, "I'm afraid to say that my house was reassessed, but it only went up $25,000, but another person I know went up $100,000. So it was you just can't predict that my next door neighbor, their house assessed $50,000 more dollars than mine, so theirs, and it's the same exact house. So it just doesn't. We can't control, but that doesn't mean we can control. What we can control is what we approve and what we invest in our children."
Ma'am, can I ask you, are you gonna have anything to talk about education? Because this is what we're here to talk about.
Well, I believe that as you guys make rulings on school board taxes, that you should be educated in what you're making rulings on.
And we were very
Yeah.
highly educated.
And this was also public comment, so I believe that I have.
Yeah. We have a few
right.
minutes. I'm just, you know what?
You have 15 minutes.
The $100,000 wasn't my neighbor. It was one of my friends in a different neighborhood.
Okay.
So
I'm
it
getting ready
wasn't
to
my,
address
it
that.
wasn't my neighbor.
Okay,
I know
perfect.
my neighbors that you happen to give me their information. I know them very well. And you know, we've all talked, but the $100,000 is in a totally different part of the neighborhood.
Absolutely.
So
I did include,
can we take a break? Can we please take a break? I need to take a break. So please take a seat and we'll stop for just for a few minutes. So,
Sure.
I'm sorry. I'm in a lot of pain, so you all just hurt my back.
We'll take a 5-minute break.
Okay.
22 p.m. Ms. Brady, if you'd like to come back up.
Yeah.
I will ask you to please not be degrading or,
I don't believe there's anything that I can do.
you may not believe that, but some board members, I'm just asking you to.
I'm just trying to clear up some things that were said.
What you
in the
may think is
April
one
decision.
thing may have been taken in a different direction.
Okay.
And you have the right to your opinion, which is this public comments for you to give your opinion. This is not a political advertisement or anything else.
It is not.
Okay. so-
This is just to clear up some confusion. I believe there were several questions about the quad plan, so I wanted to make sure that we cleared up that. And there was also some comments made in regards to some neighbors' homes that were around Miss Hall's house. And she stated that one of the houses was $50,000 higher than her own home. And I just wanted to make sure that it was clear to everyone that I'm not just randomly adjusting houses, and that it was also clear to the board how it was done.
Okay.
So to keep going with this, I did include packets in Ms. Hall's packet that she was welcome to share, but she's given them back to me, of her home and her two neighbors. During the last reassessment, I used square footage multiplied by price per square foot to come up with the overall value of the homes. Now, different neighborhoods did require different metrics, like adding land value, basements, etc. These metrics were all determined by current sales of each neighborhood. Now, as the property card showed, for Ms. Hall's house as well as her neighbor's house, they were all relatively the same value. The one home that matched Ms. Hall's home square footage exactly, the homes were assessed at the exact same amount. The taxable assessment on the two homes are different because the neighbor receives a homestead exemption for being over the age of 65. Now, Ms. Hall does not currently receive that exemption, making her taxable assessment higher than her neighbor's. Her neighbor on the other side, per my records, is slightly bigger than the home of Ms. Hall's. Therefore, the total assessment is about $5,000 higher. To be clear, all three homes were assessed at a value within $5,000 of each other. On a side note, Mr. Palmer's home is located in Quad 1, which was the quad that was reassessed in the 2024 tax year. Now, am I disappointed about how things worked out? Yes. As a fellow elected leader, I had high hopes that we would be able to work together when it came to areas where our positions overlap. I am extremely open to this still in future years. As a taxpayer, am I disappointed? Am I disappointed? Yes, because there are infinite amount of numbers between the rates of 64.3 and 66.8 that could have been selected. By only considering two rates, I felt as a taxpayer that my voice and the voices of several others were not heard. Instead, it feels that you use setting the tax rate at the highest amount without the potential for recall as a punishment for those that reached out to you that asked you that you set a lower rate. Now, that's just my personal opinion. A portion of the 66.8% tax rate is a percentage based on exonerations. This is money not collected from the previous year due to homestead exemptions and other exonerations. If the school's budget wasn't in deficit by the end of the 23-24 tax year, technically you could have lowered the rate by that amount at the very least. I know you were telling everybody that you lowered the rate. I still believe that you could have done more. I'm not for taking things from kids at school or at home. I do hope that this cleared up some questions that were presented in the August 27, 2024 meeting that I was unable to attend due to an out-of-state conference. In the future, I am available phone, email, and in person. I would have also been happy to have been available via Zoom if that had been an option. Thank you for your time today.
Okay. Student Support Services, update on Community School Initiatives Grant, Ms. Christy Bush.
For the purpose of time, I have included each one of you with a folder this evening with detailed information, and then I'm just going to go over a few slides if that's okay with you. And then if you have any questions, I'll be glad at your all's convenience to talk about anything extra. Is that okay?
Yeah, and I mean, your PowerPoint's wonderful, so thank you for your work.
All right, so as we're passing that around, I'll go ahead and get started if that's okay. So with the end in mind, our ultimate goal is to enhance the ABCs. What are ABCs? That's our attendance, behavior, and our course academics. With this success, there are no limits to what a student, a school, or a community can achieve. What is the primary purpose of a community school?
Throughout ongoing collaboration between families, educators, and community members, we minimize the non-academic barriers to learning. A community school approach helps meet family and students, and all the assets that we have in our community, we're able to utilize those and come together as a collaboration and make connections. And really, there's nothing we can't do if we can achieve that. What does this mean for families? It means a seat at the table. What does this mean for educators? Minimizing non-academic barriers so teachers can teach. What does this mean for communities? Collaborate and problem solve to enhance students, families, and our entire community. So what we do is we focus on 4 pillars. 4 pillars are integrated student support, expand learning time and opportunities for all, activate family and community engagement, collaborate leadership practices for high-quality teaching. Baker has already began with their 15 different clubs. Concrite has 8 clubs that rotate every 5 weeks. And looking for the future, we will assess what we're doing now. We will continue to have community and families participate. We will increase local coordination, collaborate leadership. We will be very intentional about the decisions that we make for our students. So once you have time to look at that, please call me, email me. I'll come to you if you have any questions whatsoever about this wonderful possibility that we have. And can you talk to us just a little bit about the October 10th, what that's going to be about?
I'm actually piggybacking on Ms. Kelly and Mr. Howard's community event. I get the privilege of being a participant in that.
Wonderful.
So they will be able to inform you more of that.
Perfect.
Is that okay?
Oh, absolutely. Okay.
Thank you.
I think so. I could have the wrong date.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Ms. Bush. Thank you for all your work on this project, too. It's noticed.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Consider approval for change order 01-02 issued to Frederick and May for the amount of $6,313 for materials and labor to cover additional costs for earthwork and storm drainage installation associated with entrance canopy construction. I think you put this stuff on here, Brandon, just to tongue tie. Yeah.
So we've got 2 agenda items here. Both are dealing with adding a canopy there in front of the new preschool. These are from Codell and Rosteron. The first one is groundwork that would go along with adding the canopy in, and the second one is the actual cost of the canopy and installation. So the board had asked to bring that so you guys could consider adding it, and that's what we've done. The funds have already been set aside for the project and budgeted, so it would come out of contingency funds.
The project is,
Correct.
Any questions from Mr. Watkins?
Well, we've already had a conversation. I feel like you answered all my questions.
yeah, and just for the record, this is, when we were value engineering this years ago, planning the project, this was the one thing that the staff had asked for, that if there was any way possible, we would get this back in. At the time, we didn't know how much the groundwork was going to cost, we didn't know how much leveling and all those things, so we kept it on the side. But I had, my intentions were to bring it back if possible. This way our kiddos do not have to walk in the rain from the buses into the building. So why would we build a building that magnificent and glorious in every way? Sorry, staging, just going to have a, hopefully ribbon cutting in the next couple months without protecting our kids getting off the bus. So that's what this is, just so that people understand.
And the project has been very smooth so far. As y'all know, we've not had a lot of change orders. And we're kind of past the point of the project that where we would have any big ticket items.
So,
We've got a couple of pictures here, yes ma'am, of what it would look like. And This taller canopy is already there. It is the shorter one that would extend out to the bus ramp. Mr. Cason, if you'll go to the next. It's highlighted in red. We come out here to where the bus loop is. And then there's one more picture here, kind of to get a better aerial view of what it would look like.
That's exciting.
Isn't that a beautiful building?
It's gorgeous.
Sorry, I get things emotional.
It's so exciting, and I think I think it's an absolute necessary to keep the babies from walking in the rain and snow, and makes sense.
Would you like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve both E2 and E3, the change orders for the preschool materials and labor, and also the other costs for the entrance canopy.
Can we do them like that, baby? Can we do them both together?
As long as you state the amounts and the numbers, and there's a consensus on both of them.
Oh, okay. So I'll make a motion to approve change order 102, and to put this to two different people. Frederick and May for the amount of $6,313.
I'll second.
Motion by Ms. Hall, second by Mr. Dorsey. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
And then I'll make a motion to approve change order 23, and this is issued to Rising Sun Developing, and it is an amount of $164,771.43 to cover the installation of aluminum entrance canopy at the main entrance.
See, it's a lot.
It is.
Motion by Ms. Hall,
Second.
second by Mr. Bennett. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Consider approval for change order 0-02 issued to Central Kentucky Glass for the amount of $1,785 for the additional cost to change vision glass to spandrel. Is that right? For yeah, you say it. To conceal exposed ductwork and piping for the exterior of the building. This is a material upgrade and no additional cost for labor.
So the architect and the construction manager came to me and actually went out and looked at it on site with them. This is a very small change order, but when you're at the front of the building, just if you don't mind to go back to that picture just real quick, I can kind of show you where it's at, the aerial shot. Yes, right here, inside this was the playground, those tallest windows right there at the very top. Those were glass, and you can see a lot of the ductwork and things, you know, up in the ceiling. And they thought it would look a whole lot better from the outside to come back and cover that with something that wasn't just glass and that you could see through for a visual aspect. So here they wanted to bring this to the board to ask about making that change order.
So spandrel, what is that?
That is a good question. Ben, you might can explain it better than I can.
I'd be curious to know what the cost would it cost more to cover it with the one-way stickers than it would to do it in spandrel?
The way they explained it to me.
This isn't a lot. I mean, it's not. It's just it's a different type of. It's not necessarily a clear, but it can cover, like it's a covering one. It's like an aesthetic covering, but it's not like straight glass. It's not usually as expensive as glass. But it just can limit, it just limits it. So it's more of a covering than anything. But that's what I'm saying, like if we've already got the stickers out front, we've got them on all the other schools, like, but if those are pretty expensive, I don't really know how much they cost or what the cost of that would be, but it may be something that you can do achieve the same effect with.
Yeah. The way I understand it is just, it's a covering for that glass there that would be, the weather tolerant, you know, and all that stuff. I don't know exactly what,
Yeah, it's,
some of the dot matrix stuff that we used and kind of how it would fit up there.
or if it would even be, I mean, this isn't really a great deal for the size of the windows and how much windows are nowadays. I mean, heck, you can, the windows are probably 7 times that, just in cost by themselves.
Did Mr. Christie have an opinion about this at all?
I haven't talked to
You
him
haven't talked to
about
him?
it.
But this is what the architect.
This is what the architect recommended,
Okay.
and the construction, and Codell Construction Manager.
And if they're gonna be putting in with,
Yeah. It's not something that necessarily has to be done, it's obviously girls' decision. They just thought that it would aesthetically look a whole lot better from the front of the building. Those windows being more of a solid surface instead of a glass see-through when you have ductwork and wires and things like that, pipes and stuff running. So,
Is this the part that faces Strode Station?
yes, yes,
Okay,
ma'am. This
gotcha.
is, like, if you were looking at front Strode, you would be looking directly onto the building, this way. And if you'd like more information, I can have Brian get that for us.
What do you think?
Anybody like to make a motion or do something different?
I'd just go ahead and make a motion to move ahead with it, because I bet they have to order it, and if we get too far in the weeds with it, it's only $1,785.
You making a motion?
I'm making a motion to approve the change order 802
All right, motion by Ms. Hall.
to Central Kentucky Glass.
I'll second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Watkins.
Thank you.
Did you hear what you're saying to
Those
me?
are probably more expensive anyway.
Oh, okay.
Dot matrix code.
Hello, Miss Ellis.
Hello.
We're ecstatic to have you here tonight.
We
So
are.
ecstatic, and I'm sorry I missed last month. We get twice this month. I'll see y'all again on Thursday.
Most exciting part of the meeting.
There it is. Get ready to pay bills in a minute, salary.
Acknowledgement of the monthly CCPS financial update. Ms. Ellis.
So in looking at our receipts and expenditures this month compared to the same time last year, we're actually up 2% in our revenue collection, 1% in expenditures. So we're great on revenues, and that's to be expected with expenditures. We're really on spot, but inflation and all that, everything's costing a little bit more. Tax-wise, we've not gotten into the full swing of collecting property taxes. When we come next month, we will see that, because October is normally the big start of the collection for the season. Otherwise, taxes are pretty much, franchise tax are 8% this year and last year. Motor vehicle, timing of collection on those, we're at 7 right now, we were at 20 last year. It's just, that check comes in and we get to record it, but, with what we had already, well, let me put this together. When I put this together and submitted it, we had not received any franchise or motor vehicle at the time, but they have come in since then, so motor vehicle is much closer to 20% now. When I looked at that before I walked in here, we're like 18%, and we still haven't, again, started property taxes, but we'll see that starting to go up. The biggest item for tonight's, on the agenda, is actually under consent, is just to inform you all about the timing of our staffing allocations. September is the month that we have to do any adjustments to our buildings based on enrollment changes. So you were provided that in the consent item as an acknowledgement. We've had 2 schools that their enrollment has gone up, and they have received growth teachers based on that enrollment, and that's following the procedure earlier in January that we put together to have very specific numbers. We said at 15 they would get an adjustment. So there's 2 schools that reached that 15 mark, and they've gotten growth teachers for that. Everyone else has stayed with within the realm of what they were already allocated for the year. So we're just letting you know and see the enrollment changes at the 3 different marks.
So enrollment's up.
Enrollment's up. It's fantastic. Yes, great news. Any questions on anything else financial? And then Thursday, we will get into the final working budget submission that is due September 30th to the state. Again, working budget is always an ongoing thing, but that's the final kind of procedure document submitted to the state in September. So we'll discuss a few more details on Thursday about that.
Thank you.
Authorize payment of salaries and accounts payable. Somebody want to make a motion to pay the bill?
Yeah, we'll make that motion to authorize payment of salaries and accounts payable.
Motion by Mr. Bennett,
Second.
second by Ms. Simpkins. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Before we go to internal board business, I do want to make a statement that I will probably kick myself in the butt for later on, but there was something said at the beginning of this meeting about my property that I want to address real quick. I've lived in the same place for 43 years. I live on family property that will eventually be mine, so that is why there's nothing in my name. So I just want to put that out there and get that out there out of the way. It has been handed down from person to person, so I just want to go on and address that and make that known that I do live on my family's farm that I have always lived on. Now, I didn't want to interrupt your important stuff with just that side bit of nonsense. Internal board business, discussion of Amendment 2.
So I was asked to put this on here, just so we could kind of clarify, not as a board, but just kind of summarize what this will do for Clark County and Ms. Hall. I believe
Yes,
you wanted to talk about this.
I took from, so Kentucky School Board Association, they provide us with, and actually this was from the superintendent's organization, but I did, there is in the back, understanding Amendment 2. It's always important before you vote to understand what you're voting for and to understand the different pieces of it. And this gives you the just some definitions of the piece of legislation. But it's not really legislation, it's to amend the Constitution of the state of Kentucky. And these can tend to be confusing. And so I'm going to read from this email the facts, and I normally don't read from something, but I think it's important to be very specific. And we have been told that we are allowed to discuss this and our opinions about it. That is what I say is my opinion and no one else's. So, but what I'm reading here are just facts about the amendment. So if the Amendment 2 is passed with a yes vote, it would remove constitutional protections that currently ensure that public funds for education support the public schools, thus allowing the General Assembly to fund schools outside the system of common or public schools in Kentucky. So to be clear, it would allow future legislatures to fund non-public schools, so private schools, charter schools, that sort of thing. And many organizations that public education advocates have long opposed privatizing public funds for education. And I agree with this statement. There are many reasons to have opposed these policy proposals that privatize public funds for education, including in other states where private school vouchers are being used, there is evidence that funding for the system of common or public schools has declined. Rural and disadvantaged communities stand to lose the most, as over half of the private schools in Kentucky are only in 3 counties. So you have Jefferson, Fayette, and Kenton, and we're not any of those 3 counties, and nearly half of Kentucky's counties have 0 private schools. And in addition, these privatized choices, options lack evidence of consistent educational improvement at scale. And in other states with voucher programs, the majority of funding goes to families already using or planning to use private schools. It is important to know that Kentucky is one of just a few states nationwide that has implemented public school choice statewide. In fact, among states that fund choice options outside the public schools, 85% to 90% of families choose public schools, which further substantiates the importance of prioritizing public funding for our public school students. It is critically important that voters understand the implications of their vote on Amendment 2 as it relates to funding schools outside the public school system. A yes vote would allow the legislature to fund non-public schools in the future by removing guardrails in the Kentucky Constitution that protects public funds for the common public schools. A no vote on Amendment 2 preserves the state's constitution and guardrails protecting public funding for education for the common public schools. And so on this handout, it breaks down the amendment for you. You can read through it, and it translates some of the language in it. Within the second paragraph, it gives 7 legal exceptions created if Amendment 2 passes. And so to allow public tax dollars to pay for private education, Amendment 2 proposes to create exceptions for 7 different sections of Kentucky's Constitution. And in the summary, because what it says in the amendment, the General Assembly may exercise the authority by law, sections 59, 60, 171, 183, 184, 186, and 189 of this Constitution notwithstanding. And so what that means is, if this passes, then they would be able to, it would open up these sections, these 7 sections. And so 59 is, prohibits the legislature from passing laws targeting specific areas of the state. 60 is prohibits legislature from indirect enactment of laws targeting areas of the state. 171 requires that taxes can only be collected for public purposes. So if Amendment 2 passes, that means the taxes that are being collected could be used for private purposes as well. 183, legislature is responsible for establishing efficient system of public schools. 184, Common School Fund prohibits taxation for funding of non-public schools. 186 is education funding exclusively to be used to maintain state's public schools. And 189 prohibits public education funds from being used for religious schools. So please take this, read it, learn about it. There's so many resources on the internet. You know, personally, I am a social worker, and I work with foster children. Every day I hear about, Senator Elkins was talking about Aaron's Law, and that's such an important, I hadn't heard of that, so I'm excited to learn more about it and to support that. The children in our school system, in our public school system, we have a very high rate of poverty in our school system, and if any of the public tax dollars is diverted in a different direction, that will harm all the students in Clark County. And so, my personal, I am voting no for Amendment 2, and I encourage everyone, when you vote, to learn about who you're voting for, what you're voting for, and to learn about it and make that informed decision. So that's my spiel. Mr. Crowell.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments, individual members?
No, I don't know.
Next item, that internal business is approval of the superintendent, me, Dustin Howard's.
You're going on with the agenda.
What?
Go ahead, finish on
I was on a roll.
Read your agenda.
Okay, all right. Well, it's my agenda item, I thought I'd just take care of it. Since I wrote it, so professional growth goals for 24, 25. Each year the superintendent should have professional growth goals. What you guys have in front of you, I based off of my evaluation from last year. A couple areas we've put a ton of money, resources, time in my first growth goal, which is instructional leadership, 2D. That's why we're here. So instructional leadership will always be on my professional growth goal because that's what we do. Specifically, making sure that we're supporting initiatives like our literacy initiative, Northern Gillingham. We're implementing new math initiatives so that we're essentially, our hope is to eliminate gaps, not reduce. We've allocated a ton of funding on getting class sizes down and teaching the basics of phonics, again, in Clark County. Not only teaching them, but supporting teachers and being in classrooms, making sure our principals in our classrooms, removing barriers for teachers. It's my job to support our principals who then support classroom teachers. And through that structure, we'll also, again, through summer work, we'll talk about on the 10th, with our Portrait of a Learner, not just talk about math and writing and reading, but how do we produce great citizens? And that's through teaching folks how to cooperatively learn and get along. Being resilient, not just learners, but empowered leaders, engaged citizens, and every one of our competencies when we're talking about what does a meaningful diploma look like in Clark County? What skill sets our kids have? And we're going to start teaching that from pre-K through graduation. And that won't be the end, that's just the beginning, because the Clark County Diploma gives our kids an opportunity to compete globally, not just in the state of Kentucky, not in the country, but globally, because they're going to have these competencies and these skill sets. So that's a lot of our work. The second part, the second goal is really cultural leadership, making sure that we've got a great culture and climate in our buildings, that our staff are working, so we're modeling the way. We want our kids to learn how to work well together, and we want our adults to work well together. And be proud that they work in Clark County, not just for the famous go-card shirts, umbrellas, pens, apparel, but because of them having the ability to change the world, starting with our kids right here in Clark County. And so it's my job as a leader to pour into our staff, building trusting relationships in our buildings. And so that's a big part of our work. There's specifics in here about how we're going to monitor that. But those are the two big things that I know myself and I know my cabinet. They are also aligning their professional growth goals to mine because we're being very targeted, very intentional, not throwing hand grenades at problems and issues, but aligning the work so that we are intentional. Any questions? You guys have the whole document there, but again, part of transparency is informing folks what your superintendent's working on and what we're working on as a district. So this is our goals kind of for the year with those two. And again, it's very much aligned with feedback that I received on my evaluation, which was all very positive, which I do appreciate. But the work's heavy, and this is our guide. Go Cards.
Okay. Would you like to call for the vote?
I'm going to turn that back over to you, Madam Chair. I've spoken up clearly.
All right, so approval of Superintendent Dustin Howard, him, professional growth goal for 2024-2025. Would anybody like to make that motion?
Yeah, I'll move that we approve the professional growth plan goals for 2024-2025.
Motion by Mr. Bennett,
I'll second.
second by Ms. Hall. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
I didn't say aye, but I meant to say aye.
Okay. Superintendent's report, do you want?
Okay, I was going
That's
to say
you
first,
too.
but I let you go ahead and say it this time.
Okay.
So connecting exactly with our professional growth goals, we want to invite the entirety of our community to help us connect with each other. We talk about building relationships within our buildings, we also have to do it as a community. So we've got to connect with the community event on October the 10th, 6:30 to 8. It'll be at George R. Clark High School. We're going to be providing dinner that night because I feel like if once you eat together and break bread, you build relationships. Then we're going to go through our revised vision and mission work. Folks ask me all the time, we had these community events last year. What did that lead to? It led to us honing in and unveiling what we want our district to be and how we're going to say that, and then what competencies we want our graduates to have in our Portrait of a Learner work. Specifically, empowered leaders, resilient learners, effective communicators, reflective innovators, engaged citizens, and committed collaborators. We'll be informing you guys and kind of working on that together on the 10th. Another big, kind of tied to it, again, we want to be very intentional. I want to give a shout out to another community partner, Halls on the River. They're going to help us with program kind of Halls highlights, where each month we're going to take one of those competencies and folks in the community, staff, parents, are going to nominate exemplar examples so we can then reward them and celebrate them. So if you know of a staff member, for instance, month one's going to be empowered leader, submit that to the district. We'll get into the details and get that pushed out. If you have students who you want to recognize as empowered leaders. If you have senators or congressmen who you want to recognize as empowered leaders, or Steve Justice, my man. I just want to shout him out, he's still here. But again, we want to theme it up to recognize the Halls is going to kind of help support that work. They're also going to have a theme night, celebrate Montgomery County coming to town on Friday night. So there's some sort of discount to go down the halls in your Cardinal gear, go Cards. So that'll be coming out this week. And then the other big initiative we've got coming is Cyber Monday Tips. We've collaborated with Chief Hall and the Police Department, Captain Charles, starting Monday. Each week, we're going to provide through collaboration a tip, kind of a tip of the week of how we protect our kids, our grandkids, our friends' kids, our community in general from the dangers of social media and the evils of cyberbullying. We've worked collaboratively, again, with Captain Charles, so that each week we're going to have a different message. We'll push that out. So again, I want to give them a huge thank you on that. Just another way we're trying to, because it takes all of us. We only have them for a short time. And a lot of these terrible things happen when they're not in buildings, frankly. And so we need to help each other understand how to prevent this. That's all my updates. We wait for another go Cards.
I was. You did not end it properly. All right, consent agenda. items. All right, would anybody like to make a motion for the consent agenda items?
I'll make a motion to.
Motion by Ms. Hawk. Sorry, didn't catch you out there.
You're good.
Need a second.
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Simpkins. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Motion to adjourn. Yeah. Motion by Mr. Bennett.
Second.
Second by Mr. Dorsey. I forgot your name for a minute. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We are adjourned at 7:59.